Welcome to another episode of Dead Headspace. I'm your host, Patrick R. McDonough, here with my friend Brennan LaFaro. Say hello, Brennan.
Hello, everybody.
Today we are talking to Nathan D. Ludwig. Say hello, Nathan.
Hello.
You are a man of many trades, so we'll go over all that, but they all go around one thing, and that's horror. So what got you into horror?
Well, just like any other growing child, desperate for, content and genre, fulfillment. I just was captivated by horror. There's something about it, especially watching movies before you're supposed to, kind of, sneaking them from your parents' VHS in their bedroom and sneaking them back into my VHS, late at night, and then watching it and rewinding it and putting it back in their room so I could get away with watching all the crazy stuff, like Predator and Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. And those are kind of my gateway drugs into horror films. And I've been hooked ever since. So it started with movies, and then I started reading, Lovecraft and Poe, and really hooked on that. I was always been an avid reader. So yeah, I mean, it's started pretty similar to a lot of other people, I think, but it's become a lifelong obsession.
Brennan, you usually have a good follow-up.
Well, one of us has to. Um, I I don't really have a question necessarily, just an observation. I think it's so neat, I guess, the idea of kind of borrowing, for lack of better words, a VHS and trying to get it to the exact spot it was. I feel like that's an answer that's going to die away in the next, as we start talking to younger and younger horror aficionados. But there's something very tangible about that, not just putting a DVD back or clearing the search history, but of trying to get it to that exact, the trying to wind the tape to the exact spot so nobody's going to know that you were in the middle of all that. So my follow-up question is, at what point did you stop being a, well, I guess we're always consumers, but did you want to start being a creator?
Well, I've always written short stories ever since I was little. I love writing short fiction, and I've done it since I was probably about 8 or 9. Um, it didn't really dawn on me that I was going to, or I should, or I could do it to submit it to other people to like get them to read it. I was just always content with writing it for myself, and writing fan fiction or just writing little short horror stories, inspired by some of the films I watched. And it wasn't until I got out of high school and I was actually in the army for 4 years. And I was in South Korea, and I kind of really didn't have anything to do. And then I realized, hey, I could write screenplays. And that's where I really started writing things. I was like, oh, you don't have to be in a club. You don't have to be in some secret club to write a screenplay. You could just write one and try and get it sold, and that's kind of when it dawned on me to try to be a screenwriter. And that's where I started my writing career, as it were. And yeah, over in South Korea, watching, on my weekends, it would be 5, 6, 7 movies a weekend, and just mainlining everything I could get my hands on, and then trying to apply that to a screenplay, kind of self teaching myself how to write screenplays. And that's kind of where it all started for me.
Did did you happen to see any Bong Joon-ho movies over there? That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite
Oh
South
yeah, he's
Korean
great.
filmmakers.
I didn't see any Joon-ho movies in the theater, but I did go see Old Boy when it was out in theaters in Korea originally. No English subtitles, but I still went and watched it, and I was blown away. I was like,
I don't blame you.
if the movie's really good, you don't need subtitles. So it was that was quite the experience. Yes.
I saw Parasite when it right before it was February of 2020. It was right before everything went to hell with
Hmm.
COVID. Because they reissued Parasite in my local theater for a week. And that was like, okay, so February 2020. My son was like only a few months old. My wife wasn't too pleased, but I'm like, you know what? This one feels like I gotta see it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that just it was interesting because I heard like, is it hard? Is it this? It doesn't matter. It's so fucking good. The storytelling is absolutely superb.
Oh, my obsession with Korean films did start when I lived in South Korea. I would go to the store and buy, I had a Region 3 DVD player. I bought a whole bunch of movies that I still have to this day. Anything that comes out South Korean, I watch it. Drama, comedy, anything. I just love what they do. Like, they make the best action revenge thrillers on the planet, better than Hollywood, I think.
That's fair. I'm pretty obsessed. I've talked about it in enough episodes about the Korean War, but also like just in general, it's in Asia. South Korea is one of the most thriving countries in that in all of Asia, and it's also interesting because like North Korea is one of the most impoverished in the entire world, and you know what? It kind of makes me wonder if they just one day unite. What else? What other stories could you get there? Because it's a completely different world now, you know?
Well, when I lived over there, there are some people that do want to reunite with North Korea, and there are people that are like, that's never going to happen. They're just going to try to invade us. So it depends on who you talk to over there. I remember we'd be driving from from Busan all the way up to Seoul to go for our monthly meetings with headquarters. And there were these Katusas, they were Korean augmentees to the United States Army. So there would be, young Korean boys that would be attaches for the American military instead of joining the Korean military. So they would tell us all the secrets about like the World War II and all this crazy stuff. And they would say, look up in those mountains when we're driving on the highway, those are all machine gun nests. That bridge is ready to detach at any time in case North Korea invades. It was wild to hear some of the stuff they would talk about. So yeah, that country is ready for war. So I don't know what's going to happen, but they do have a defense plan in place.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I mean it's crazy because when I started researching it, I never knew that Japan ruled all of Korea up until World War II, the end of World War II, when they separated North from the South.
Yeah, they
Um,
were pretty terrible to the Koreans, that's for sure. There were a lot of American military buildings that used to be Japanese buildings during World War II that they've taken over. And it'd be like the morale and welfare club, and they'd be and the Korean soldiers would be like, "Hey, down in that basement is where they used to torture Koreans. The Japanese used to just torture and kill them in that basement." So it just then they would say it very casually, and I'm like,
it's
"Oh my
so fucking
gosh!"
wild.
Like, okay, thanks for the information. Yeah, it's some crazy stories that I've heard.
It's a pretty interesting breeding ground if you think about it. I mean, not even I can't even say that. I was about to say not even the wars, but you got to think that like that's like the I'm gonna fuck up his name, Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah,
Like his generation, he's probably too young for. He was definitely too young for that. But like he was the first generation right after Korea was its own country. So you got to think that a lot of those filmmakers probably have all those stories that pour into their work.
absolutely. Yeah, I think Bong Joon-ho, or is it Kim Ji-woon, the guy who did I Saw the Devil, he did a really good one called Age of Shadows,
Hmm.
which is all about partisans and spies during World War I and World War II. It's a really good film. Just kind of like almost like the French Resistance, but in Korea. Really good stuff.
Oh, okay. One more thing about this, and then Brennan jump in. But there were quite a few while the Korean War was happening from 1950 to 1953. There were quite a few movies being made then, and the first one was American made. It's called Steel Pot. It's really fucking good. It starts out with this American I believe it's he's in the army. Yeah, he's in the army, and he is hobbling. His arms are bound, and this little Korean boy finds him, set like cuts his binds, and they kind of hook up and go on this crazy adventure. But it was filmed in 1950. It's so fucking good. It can hold up today. So I watched it on YouTube. I don't know where else to find it. If you got like an hour and a half to kill, definitely worth exploring that.
Oh
But
wow, I have to check that out.
I would love to know your thoughts. Brennan, I'm kind of veering off track a little bit, so why don't you reel us back in?
All right. No, I had nothing to add on all that, so I was going to let you two go as long as you wanted to. So let's bring it back into writing a little bit. I got a chance to read The Comfy-Cozy Nihilist, and I absolutely loved it, man.
Oh, thank you.
I've I got a lot of questions about the way it's kind of written together, but my first one kind of overlaps with that Twitter question we had, which I was able to pull up. So I'm going to kind of read this and throw my own thoughts on it. But Paul Grammatico wants to know, what were some of the challenges you faced when you changed from screenwriting to prose? And do you have any interesting stories or anecdotes during this process? And I'll throw that to you in a second, but I loved the author notes in Comfy Cozy Nihilist and the insight as to how some of them started as screenplays and other ones, came very, very close to being actually adapted. So, yeah, I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about the difference between writing screenplays and prose.
Sure. Yeah, I had written screenplays from, I'd say, about 2005, 2004, 2005, exclusively all the way up to about 2015, 2016. So there's about a good 10-year chunk where I wasn't even working on prose. It was all, I was just obsessed with breaking into Hollywood and becoming a screenwriter. I had a little bit of success here, placed at some competitions, get to go to some festivals, and got close to getting a couple things optioned, but it's such a crapshoot with Hollywood screenwriting. I don't know if you know this, but it's literally like trying to win the lottery sometimes. You just don't know what's going to happen. And after a while, I had thought to myself, well, there's got to be something else to do. My writing is my strongest suit. I've directed some short films too, and I've never really been very happy with my directing abilities. I'm just always more confident as a writer. And what had happened was I had gone to Scares That Care in 2019, along with some friends, including Samantha Koyesnik, who's like, "Oh, we should just go and hang out." And I felt like such a dum dum. Yeah, I wrote about this in Love Potion, Patrick, in the foreword.
No, I made that expression because I'm thinking like I went then too, but I didn't see you. But I don't know if we knew each other
I didn't
then.
know anybody at the time. I was just like a deer in headlights.
Or
It's
maybe
all
I
the
went the
all these
year
writers.
after. I went the year after, probably.
So I
Okay.
just saw all these people just selling their books in these small presses. They're so friendly and so cool. I was like, you know what? I got to try this. I really have to do this. Why didn't I think of this sooner? I could be doing both at the same time. So that's when I took one of my screenplays, which had done well on the competition front, Love Potion 666, and I turned that into a book. And it took a little while because when you're doing nothing but writing screenplays, it's very easy to fall into that trap when you're writing prose, and to just be very spare with your prose, your description and whatnot. So I had to go back on several drafts and I had to keep beefing it up and I sent it to my beta readers. So like, this is good, but you really have to put more. It needs more description. It needs more flavor. And the dialogue's great, but you gotta, and that's my strength is dialogue. And so when I'm trying to write really detailed scene descriptions, I can sometimes be like, I don't want to do this. I just want to just go bang, 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 bang. And when you've got someone reading your book, you need to add that flavor in there. So that was my struggle to begin with. And I think I've gotten better at it now that I've gotten away from adapting a screenplay into a book. Now the next thing I'm working on right now, manuscript, it's just fresh. It's not from anything. So I actually feel more liberated to just write from scratch like that.
That was definitely, I would say, my favorite part about Love Potion 666 is the dialogue. It is very snappy at times, and when you kind of go back and forth, it just feels right. It feels very natural.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's that comes very easy for me. It's a lot of fun to just get, I'll do dialogue exercises where I'll put two characters into a room, and might not even use it later, but I'll just have them talk to each other back and forth to get the feel of the characters. So that's a lot of fun to do.
where you went with that particular book, I just you read a lot. I'm sure you do too now, man. You read a lot of different types of horror. Well, some people don't, but a lot of us read a lot of different type of horror. And with what you wrote in Love Potion 666, I just kind of it didn't dawn on me until right now when we're talking about this, man. You wrote a really fucking crazy ride of a book that you threw in things that I don't want to spoil anything. So I'll just say, like, I didn't expect a lot of the things to jump out that jumped out. That's all. I always get a little wary about what I should say and not say about certain books
Sure,
because it's a,
sure.
it's a newer book. But yeah, it was a wild ride.
It's totally like right out of the 90s. Like I think feels like a 90s crime action film. If you like stuff like
That's
True
it.
Romance and Natural Born
Oh
Killers and
yeah,
Wild at Heart and From Dusk Till Dawn and Serpent in the Rainbow, which is an 80s film, but it's the voodoo zombies and all that. That kind of just that 90s genre crime film. Way the Gun is another one. Like that's the kind of spirit that I wanted to recapture with that book. So it's very wild. It's very mean spirited. It's not for everybody. The characters aren't very relatable as far as sympathy wise, but
yeah,
I still managed to put a little bit of sympathy in there here and there, even though they're doing terrible things. You're like, oh, I hope they survive. At
yeah.
least one character, hopefully.
I could definitely see Trent Reznor or like the band Filter doing the soundtrack for that
Absolutely.
book. That's great, Brennan. Yeah, it looked like you had something to say.
Yeah, no, I actually wanted to piggyback off the dialogue thing. That's definitely something you're very strong at. And I think there's probably a certain expectation that, with a screenwriting background, the dialogue writing is going to be strong. But another element that really jumped out to me is the humor, um, the dark humor, and if you'll forgive me, the snark. And I was kind of curious, because I love writing stuff like that, and I'll a lot of times write it, just let it flow in the first draft, and then kind of revisit it and have to say, okay, you need to take it back a notch. This is obnoxious. And I wonder if you kind of find, do you, let it flow and that's what ends up in the final version, or do you snap it back, or do you add to it?
I tend to overwrite the hell out of everything, whether it's a screenplay or a story. Every time there's a call for a story for an anthology, I'm like, all right, I got this. And it's like 4,000 words, and it turns out to be like 8,000 words. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to cut that down that much. That's just not going to happen. So I hardly ever submit to anthologies because I'm always like, yeah, overwriting everything. It just ends up in my collection. There's a lot of stories in that collection that were going to be for anthologies that I was like, this stuff is too good. And you can cut it down to a certain extent, but like half, I just couldn't see being able to do that. And yeah, this book, The Comfy-Cozy Nihilist, was a lot darker. And I was reading it through it, and I was like, no one's going to want to read this. So I kind of lightened it up. And lighten means like that's a very loose term because it's still a pretty dark book. But I was like, I didn't want to be so pessimistic and hateful that people are going to be like, what's this guy's problem? Part of it is a gimmick. Obviously, it's part of the theme of the book. It's not, I don't believe every single thing in that book, obviously, just like any kind of, the narrator's not exactly the author. But yeah, I definitely like kind of brought it back just a little bit in a couple of the stories because I was like, that's not me all the way. So I kind of wanted to make it just a little bit more darkly funny than like too oppressively dark. So yeah, definitely.
I think the cover art is a good reflection of that exact theme you just went over to.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about kind of how that came to life?
Sure. We had myself, Waylon Jordan, who runs Off Limits Press, and he's also an author, and Samantha Koyesnik. We started a WhatsApp kind of like readers group, a writers group, feedback group, and we're like, oh hey, let's all put out a collection. And Samantha still has yet to put out her collection. I have to get on her for that. But Waylon and I both put one out, and in the meantime, we're feedbacking each other's stories and seeing what should go here and there. And I realized I don't have an idea for a cover, and I don't know a ton of people, and I don't want to be one of those people to just kind of just feel out someone and then not like the final product of the cover because I haven't worked with them before. So one of my filmmaker friends that I know through the GenreBlast Film Festival recommended this guy named Joey Souza. And what I like to do, and look, I love cover artists. I think Don Noble's great. I think A.A. Medina's great, people that I've worked with before. But I like to go a little bit outside the box and use someone who's a great artist, but doesn't usually work in that specific format. So if I'm looking to do like a movie poster or a festival poster, I'll go for someone who does more like book covers or something like that. And if I want like a book cover, I'll talk to someone like Joey Souza, who does mostly like album covers and t-shirts and stuff like that. He's got this really broad, funny, gross artistic style that just feels like kind of liquid TV or like Adult Swim kind of craziness. A lot of people said Happy Tree Friends when they see the cover. And I approached him and I said,
Yeah.
would you like to, I'm looking for a book cover. And I told him, I said, I'm looking for something that's like really cute animals doing something like ritualistic suicide or something, or they're murdering something, or I just want something that they look cute doing something really awful for the cover. So it's kind of a clash between the comedy and the darkness. And he came back with that. I did not give him a ton of direction. And I saw the first draft of the cover and I said, this is going to be so cool. And I love that cover so much. I would have paid him 3 times more than what I paid for it because it's so good. That's what everybody says. It's like, oh my God, that cover. I have to read that book. And so it's been a great boon for me. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. Just the way that a good cover can kind of bring readers in. And, like I said, I really do feel strongly that it's such a good reflection of what you're going to find inside. It's not like, hey, this is a brilliant cover, but ooh, between the pages. No, it's like, it's a nice little match made in, I don't know if heaven's the right term there, but
You'd say hell.
heck. Um, so, all right, I want to hear you talk about something that you touch on a little bit in both the collection and in some of the story notes. I would like you to expand on your fear of doppelgangers. And I'd also love to hear you talk a little bit about some examples in media, whether it's books or movies, that have really, really done it well.
Okay, here we go. So, and I think I touched on this in the book too. Like, there's a lot of things that people are scared of that I just go, okay, I get it for you, but that doesn't scare me. Like clowns, sharks, I mean, they're not doppelgangers, dolls. Like, yeah, I can see that if it's done well in a movie, but it just don't scare me. Like, I just don't get it. There's something about doppelgangers, and I still don't know. Maybe I need to go see like a therapist that they can explain it to me. But there is something about the fact that there is like not just like an evil twin that shows up and destroys your life. I'm talking about like an actual doppelganger that you don't know where it's come from, and if you see it, it signals your death or your doom. Like that stuff is really creepy to me. Like that very like that J horror style kind of nightmare fuel, dream logic horror is the stuff that I love to watch,
Mm.
and I love to read about. Um, and if you ever get a chance to watch a movie by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, it's a movie called Seance, and this is the same guy who directed Pulse, the original version of Pulse. He's directed Retribution, Cure, which just came out on Criterion release. Just really good horror thriller director. Seance is has one of the creepiest, probably the creepiest depiction of a doppelganger and also of ghosts I've ever seen in a movie. And it's a very underrated film. Just that, and I thought Enemy was really good with Jake Gyllenhaal. If you've ever seen that one, about a guy who just encounters his doppelganger one day, and it's so weird and creepy and dream logic like Lynchian almost. Just something about it, with knowing that there's something out there and it's coming for you, or it knows where you are and you can't escape it. That stuff is really creepy to me, and it sends chills up my spine. And I love watching horror films and reading books about that kind of stuff. um I don't know, it's one of those latent things that when you see it, you just know that that scares you more than anything else. What are some of your fears, the two
Us
of you?
is real quick. Us probably would be one of the latest doppelganger movies for horror. Jordan Peele. Us.
Oh yeah, Us. Yeah, that's a
Hmm.
really good one too.
What's your fears, Brennan?
I'm not afraid of anything.
You made of
I
sturdier
You know,
stuff then.
I no, I you know what? It's one of those questions that you can't help but think about in this genre, especially because we're asking that of people. I always say that when we ask somebody what got you into horror, it's just a roundabout way of saying what are you afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times I'm always amazed at how many people got into horror as a way to just kind of like they hated it. They were kind of like almost held back by it, and they just kind of dove in head first as a way to conquer what was paralyzing them, really. I have to steal one from my friend Tyler Jones that I think is the ultimate, and that's time. Just that you're not going to have enough time with the people you love, that you're not going to have enough time to write all the stories that are circling around in your head, to read all the books that are taking up your shelf, to do all the things that you want to do. And just the way that that kind of fear of time getting away from you can be almost a way to drain more time because you're spending, your life thinking about it. Patrick, go ahead. How about you? Is it
well,
dolls?
mine's not as philosophical as yours. Mine's Great White getting killed like that because I don't know, man. I just I am a pussy in the at the beach. I am terrified of being one of those stories. For example, a beach that we go to, like oh my God, Brendan, help me out. Chatham. That's Chatham and Cape Cod. I mean, it is literally on Shark Week. And uh and I remember this one time I got pulled out in an undertow. I was 12 and in this town called Hull, close enough to hell, just one letter off. And I was pulled out so far with my little sister that everyone looked like ants, and I just kept thinking, I'm gonna go out like Jaws because I don't even know how young I was when I saw Jaws, but mine would be sharks. But also seeing my kid just killed by a car. Just I write about that shit all the time. So time's a good one though.
Yeah, time and isolation is another big thing with me.
Yeah.
Identity, like, I get into, I've had conversations with people about what about when you go under for surgery and then you wake up again? Are you still the same person? Like, is that still your same consciousness? How do you know? Or just like with doppelgangers, how do you know which doppelganger is you? Or maybe you're the doppelganger. That stuff keeps me up at night. So just mortality also, I've got two kids and they're still young. So I'm
Mm.
like, I'm hoping that I live long enough so they have solid memories of me. Cause that's to me, that's one of the worst things ever is
Well,
to
that
have kids
suck.
and then you die and then they don't remember you. Memories are very important. Like that's how you live on. So all that stuff scares me, freaks me out.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Right. I don't know how to go from
I want to throw one more thing before we move away from the collection, but there's a story in there that I really, I got like halfway through and I said, it's fucking brilliant. It's just such a great commentary. And that is Me, the Jury. And I
Oh,
wonder if you would talk a little bit about that story, sell it a little bit.
sure. Me, the Jury, that started as there's this screenplay competition called the New York City Midnight Screenplay Challenge. And they do every year, they have a bunch of different challenges. One of them is a short screenplay. And if you enter into it, they give you criteria. They give you like a setting, they give you a genre, and they give you like a plot device or something. And just based on that, you have to write a 5-page screenplay. And then you're judged on that, and then you move on to the next round and whatnot. For one of the competitions, this was an idea that I came up with. It was like a menu, science fiction dystopian, and I forget what else, like a jury or something like that. And I just went with it. I said, what could I do with this? And I was just thinking like Paul Verhoeven kind of dystopian sci-fi satirical stuff, where it's really not that unbelievable that something like this could happen. I don't think. Where the jury deliberates, and instead of deliberating for a week over a murder trial, you're given a menu, and the jury is whittled down to nothing based on the violent, psychological, mind effery, what's going on in this menu. And the last juror left. I mean, I don't want to spoil it too much for anyone who hasn't read it, but it's just like the violence that has been brewing in our society, the ill will towards each other is just unleashed in this jury room, and everybody's social mores and peccadillos and ticks and all this stuff that we're pitted against each other is just goes haywire. And it's not really a commentary on anyone specific. I'm not wagging my finger at anyone. I'm just kind of looking at where we are as a society and going, this is not good. Like, this is not good. It can't end well, and it doesn't end well. So I just don't know. It's just one of those things where it was in my head. I was annoyed about something. I mean, Mick Wickerson's Awfully Big Day is another one where I was just like I'm just like I get annoyed when I sit down to write about everything that's going on in the world or social media or whatever, necessary evil and all that. But then I just sit down and I write, and it's just I'm like, is this too dark? Is this too pessimistic? And I'm like, you know what? Just embrace it and just write it. There are people that will pick up on it and enjoy it, and that's where kind of those stories come from. It's just me just being an annoyed. Now I'm getting old. I'm 43. I'm getting grumpy old man syndrome kind of thing where you're just yelling at clouds. But I think it comes from a place of genuine concern that I think a lot of people can appreciate and relate to. So that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. And like kind of the almost implied like morality contest, like
Mm-hmm.
one of the aspects that kind of struck me is um almost like judging somebody based on something that they might have said out of context like 15 years ago, and that it that gets me like sweating cold because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like the things I said in high school, and I don't consider myself a hateful person, but man, like you definitely talk to your friends differently in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and
Yes.
to
Mm-hmm.
think that innocent banter that now we know is not quite as innocent, but to think that forms the basis of somebody's entire personality, and that we should crucify them 20 years later for it is just, it's wild. And it's like you said, it's just not that far from the norm. It's not that far outside the realm of possibility.
And I think I put this in my notes too. It's an overcorrection is what it is.
Hmm.
It comes from a good place. It comes from a well-meaning place a lot of the times, but it's so overcorrected that you cause more damage than what was originally there, as far as socially, what's responsible, how do you want this person to atone for whatever they said? And it ends up causing much more collateral damage in the present than it ever did in the past sometimes. And I'm not talking about scumbags who deserve to get what they want. I'm just talking about just regular people that get caught up in the crossfire of something they said 10 years ago. And I don't think anyone has a plan for how you approach that. And that's part of the problem too.
Hmm. I want to talk about In Here With Us. It's a short story, so we don't have to like go into heavy detail. But what it did remind me of was Clive Barker's The Yatterin' and Jack. For those that haven't read that, it's in the Books of Blood. It's just it's it's talking about wait, if I say that, it's gonna spoil it. Do you want me to just not say what it's about?
I mean, you can if you want to. You don't have to give away the whole story though, but just kind of the premise.
It's dark comedy. It's horror. It's talking about demon possession. And it's kind of given demons humanistic personality traits. And Brennan touched on it earlier, and you really do horror and comedy really, really well. And I was raised Catholic, so that shit was just cracking me up, man.
I get a lot of that from people that have messaged me. I was raised Catholic. That was like my favorite story because it's so funny. And it's not, I was raised Catholic too. It's a nice little catharsis to be able to read about that and you go, yeah, I've thought about that. Or that reminds me of so and so and stuff. And that Catholic guilt that is absolutely there, whether you're still Catholic or not, where you're just like, is it okay to laugh at this or is it not okay to laugh at
Right.
it? But yeah, that's where that came from. Absolutely. It was going to Sunday school and going to church every Sunday, going to summer camp, Catholic summer camp. And I did all that stuff.
And the commentary on for just in case we have one person that says not all, well, a lot of the guys that work for the church have touched kids, and I thought that was funny. You go into this little weird fucking creepy booth and you just like ask this creep to, or potential creep, to forgive you, and they're doing like the worst thing in the world you can do. So it's just a lot of people, and this is my personal take, a lot of people use religion as like a shield to just do whatever the fuck they want, and then just go to church on Sunday and be like, I'm so sorry. Not really, but I'm forgiven for
Yeah.
the week.
The loophole that is, the Catholic Church. There's always, I mean, religion is religion. I'm not going to begrudge anyone their religion, but yeah, there are definitely a lot of people that use it as a loophole to do terrible things.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. And then hide behind that whole morality thing. It's terrible. It really is.
yeah, it's definitely it's every religion. It's because we're people, like you said. So, Brennan, unless you got anything else for this, I would love to talk to him about GenreBlast Film Fest.
Let's go.
All right, man. So just talk about how you got, that's a big ordeal to do, to start your own convention.
Yeah.
Film festival. Sorry, film
Yeah.
festival.
Same idea. Yeah, GenreBlast has been, well, this is our 8th year now. So yeah, like you said, it is a lot of work. It's a huge undertaking. It's a year-round undertaking. I gotta watch some films after I get off here. So like it's always going on, but I love it. I mean, I love film and cinema so much. It's part of my DNA now. And my buddy Chad Farmer, who actually just had his first book come out, Devil Won't Let Me Be. It's an extreme horror book about werewolves and all kinds of splatterpunk stuff that just came out this weekend. I met him in film school at Full Sail University in Orlando in like 2008, and we've been best friends since. And we made this feature film in the wilds of Oregon with a producer that is no longer friends with us. We went over budget, and it turned out to be a terrible debacle that we'll never speak of or see the light of day again.
Oh man.
Right out of film school, we thought we knew everything. We completely just blew it. And after that, we were like back to the drawing board. What do we do? So we made a handful of short films. We co-directed and co-wrote a handful of short films, 4 or 5 short films, got some, awards, hit the festival circuit. We felt a little bit better about ourselves. And we had our screenplays there too. And going to all these different festivals, I tell you, it's an adventure. You'll go to some really cool festivals that are just so well put together, and you're on the red carpet and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And you go to some other festivals that are, there's like 2 people there, and it's in a hotel in like, bum F Texas or wherever, and there's nobody there. You don't see the festival director. You're like, am I supposed to even be here? What's going on? So, and it's really sad. And you find like the other 2 people are also filmmakers, and there's nobody there to actually see the movies. So you just guys just drink, and then you're just like, why are we waste all this money coming here? So we've run the gamut, of festivals. And after a while, about 2015, we were like, you know what? What's stopping us from running our own festival? We know exactly what we like. We know what I mean, we've been to Fantastic Fest. We've been to the Nashville Film Festival. We've been to all over. Like, we know what we like. We have the certain kind of taste in films. We love these genre films. If we were to run a festival, I think we'd do a good job. So there's a small town in Culpeper that my family kind of lives in and around, and they had a state theater that was being renovated, and it was, from the 1930s when Gone with the Wind was playing. They played Gone with the Wind there.
Oh,
So
shit.
it had fallen into disarray, and then the town council had come up with some money to refurbish it and turn it into a state-of-the-art theater. And we were like, oh, hey, let's walk right in there and ask if we can have a film festival. And lo and behold, we, a little bit of finagling, and we got in there. And our first year, I was at the State Theater in Culpeper, and we did amazing. People were like, "Oh my God! Like, how long is this festival been running? Was it under a different name? Like this is not a first year festival. This, you got to be kidding!" We were stunned. We were not expecting that. We just look at each other and go, "I get," because we were just doing things the way they were supposed to be done. We had our game face on, whatever you want to call it. We were organized. We had all our logistics down, and we were ready to do it. Whereas I think some of these festivals, they just take your submission money and they just throw it into like a hotel ballroom screening room with a crappy projector and a screen, and they call it a film festival. And that's not a film festival. I'm sorry if I offended anyone that does one of those festivals. It's not. So we did it the right way, and people are just like, the I don't know how it is with a lot of, I mean, because I don't know that there's really not an equivalent in the writing world of like a film festival. I guess, like a convention or a signing or whatever. But there's so many filmmakers that are quote unquote abused by going to all these festivals, and they think that this is how a festival is run, and then they go to a really good festival and they go, oh my God, like this is how a festival is supposed to be run. I've been going to all these terrible festivals, and we were just so excited. And then as soon as the festival was over, that theater shut down due to mismanaged funds. We were literally the last thing in and out of that theater. The next, like on that Monday, they were like the theater shutting down.
Oh
So
my
we go,
God.
well, what do we do? We don't have a
Yeah.
venue now for next year. We get all these rave reviews, and we have no place to go. Luckily, about 2 hours away in Winchester, Virginia, which is very close to like DC, it's like in that hump of Virginia, in between West Virginia and DC.
Mhm.
There's a Alamo Drafthouse Cinema, and I don't know if you guys know about the Alamo Drafthouse, but it's like literally the greatest theater chain on the planet. It's they have a great curation. They love genre films. They play all kinds of cool stuff, and you can eat and drink at your seat. And it's a full
Nice.
menu, booze. They have a bar in the lobby. I mean, it's the perfect setup for a film festival. Luckily, after a couple of meetings, they agreed, because they had some bad experiences with scammy festivals before, with
Mm.
bad festivals where nobody showed up. And as they said, as long as you can bring people in, then we'll have you. And it was a success. And we've been at the Alamo Winchester ever since. And we play all the good stuff. We play action, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, adventure, martial arts, gangster movies, all the fun stuff that you want to watch. That's what we play. And we get movies from around the world. It's every Labor Day weekend at the Alamo Winchester, so it's a Thursday through a Monday, because everybody has that Monday off.
Mm.
So that's their travel day to go home. So everybody comes for Thursday through Sunday, and they go home on Monday. So it's like a destination festival for a lot of people, for the filmmakers and for the film goers. Now, we built up a community in Winchester that look forward to it every year, pull in a really great crowd. We even ran during COVID. Luckily, the Alamo Draft Host opened up just in time for our festival in 2020. We were very worried that, what do we do? Do we go virtual? Do we do this or that? But they opened up, and we did have a smaller festival in person and online. But we haven't closed down once since we started. So we've been going
Wow.
continuously for 8 years. Everybody has kind of come to expect it, which is why I can't be like, hi, I don't feel like doing it anymore, because people will literally try to kill me. So it's a it's a great time. It's a great chance to have a good time and hang out and network with people. We have a lot of writers that have submitted, that have played. I know we played the Naughty List from Brian Keene.
Mm.
Um, Brian Asman had a short at our festival last year. Nate Southard has had a couple shorts. So a lot of writers in the writing world have become part of GenreBlast. So I think if you're listening and you're a writer or a filmmaker and you haven't been to GenreBlast, you want to come and check it out. I think you're gonna have a great time. It's gonna be one of the best things you've ever done. One of the best decisions you've ever made.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 years ago when I was a judge, whenever it was, I was blown away with the films. They were from the sci-fi to this. I remember this one that was also a horror and a comedy. Another one that dealt with a father looking for his wife who was hooked on drugs in Philadelphia, and I was like, "Holy shit! This is shot like a Scorsese film."
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible what an average Joe can do. Obviously, there's a lot of work to it, but like you don't need the type of stuff, the type of money I guess you needed back even in the early aughts. Because I tried, like, I was super underground for a film, Megan, in right after high school, straight out of high
Mm-hmm.
school, and I was looking into renting a lot of equipment. Luckily, I ran into my godfather's friend, and he kind of helped. But my God, it's changed so much.
It really has. The quality of our short film blocks are out of this world. There are so many good films that we can't play just because we just don't have the room for them. The competition is super fierce. It's ridiculous. We could program another entire 3 or 4 days with the stuff that doesn't make
Holy
that just missed it by just this much. It's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. Everybody's
So,
like, oh my God, those shorts. It's because we don't just play horror. And I love horror and I go to a lot of horror film festivals, a ton of horror film festivals that are really good,
mm,
but they're not playing the sci-fi stuff. They're not playing the action stuff. They're not playing the weird offbeat stuff that you don't see anywhere else. We play all that stuff. So it's like a mixtape of all genres. So if in a shorts block, you'll get a horror film, an action film, a sci-fi film, a weird, bizarre film, all in one block. And it just, people are blown away by like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting it to be that good. I just wanted to watch all horror movies, but then you get exposed to a whole bunch of different stuff that you might not necessarily normally be exposed to.
yeah, I mean, I love horror too, but I mean, I don't want only horror. That's not fun. One of my favorite movies, Chappie. It's sci-fi, but it's just. Have you guys seen that movie, Chappie?
Oh yeah, I've seen Chappie. Yeah, yeah.
Man, that is such a touching. I saw that in theaters with my wife when it came out. That stuff, I was tearing up at the end. It's. I just would never expect a movie like that seems silly to just hit you and punch you in the heart. My point is like you never know, like you said, Nathan. You never know what you're gonna really like until you see it. How can you know if you don't try it out?
Yeah,
So
there's a
it's
ton of movies where my buddies would be like, "Hey, you got to watch this," and I'm like, "I don't want to watch that." And then you end up watching it, and it's like, "Oh my God, how could I live my life without loving this movie now that I've seen it?" So, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's a movie. I saw that when it came out in theaters. That's a movie I knew I was gonna like, but I was like, it's 2.5 hours. I don't have time. I'm just not going to get around to seeing it. And I knew I was going to love it, and I got around to seeing it, and I loved it. And that's how it is with a lot of movies. I can tell usually ahead of time whether I'm going to like a movie or not because I've seen
hmm,
so many now, and I judge for the festival and stuff. I can if I get a submission in, I can usually tell whether this is going to be good or not.
yeah.
So that's always like a struggle with me is to actually just get around to watching. It's like, oh, finally going out to go to the gym. Once you're at the gym, it feels great, but you got to motivate yourself to go. There's so many good movies that I still have yet to watch, and I know I'm going to love them, but I just have to get around to watching them. I'm just, how it is. You got kids, and you got a job, you got your wife, you got all this other stuff. It just sometimes there's just no time to do anything you want to do.
Yeah. Brandon, I have one more question about this and then jump in. But how, if this might not even be possible, but if you were to like round it up or down or whatever, how much time, how many hours do you think that you pour into to just watching film to see what may make it or what may not per
Oh,
year?
God. Oof. Well, we get about 1,000 submissions a year. Um, so I would say we usually get about 100 to 150 feature films
Oh my
and
God.
600 to 800 short films. Um, and we try to watch everything. But we have judges and we have volunteers that help us tackle it, or else we wouldn't be able to run it. But Chad and I take it very personally, as far as like we feel like this festival is an extension of our taste and our personalities. So we personally do try to watch as much stuff as we can. Do we get to everything? No, that's what the judges and the volunteers are for. They help us out and they know what we like and they can kind of forward, hey, this was good. We know you guys will like this, or yeah, it's not worth your time. It was just not, didn't work for us or for the festival. So that's kind of how we do it. I would say, yeah, I watch about 100 feature films a year just for GenreBlast, and probably 400 to 500 shorts a year. So that's a lot, and that takes out of my fun movie watching time, because after I'm done programming the festival, I don't watch any movie. I just like play video games. That's like no interest in watching movies until like later on in the year, like award season.
Absolutely. Now you said that you were successful right off the bat because you kind of learned from the, oh, I hate to call them lesser festivals, but I'm going to. And you did things right. So, and not only that, but the festival kind of grew organically from there. So if there was somebody with all these quality submissions out there, somebody who wanted to kind of start their own film festival, what would be some of the top things that they need to keep in mind in order to kind of have that initial success?
To run a festival, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You have to love it. You don't want to be in it to make money. Obviously, one of the goals is to eventually become profitable, but don't hang your hat on that completely. If you're just, oh, I see all these festivals getting all these submissions and I can make some money, that's the wrong answer. That money that we earn through festival submissions and sponsorships and stuff, that we put that back into running the festival and making it the best quality festival possible. We pick people up from the airport. The airport's about an hour away. We have a shuttle that goes and picks people up from the airport, brings them back to the hotel, which is right next door to the Alamo Draft House. We have a pretty sweet setup. If you're looking to start a festival, one of my big pieces of advice would be, you have to actually make the filmmakers feel like you care and you love film and you love what they do. You have to know the filmmakers and the screenwriters by name. You have to know their project when you meet them. That's part of it. That's one of the things that we get complimented for all the time. I know every single person that arrives at the festival. Before they even say hello, I will shout their name out as soon as they walk through the door. And that, you see the smile on their face,
That's
because they're
cool.
like, we feel welcome here. It's not just, here's your pass, there's the theater, go, F off. It's, we are there. I want to hang out with the filmmakers. Like I almost feel weird sometimes, like I'm being too overbearing, because I want to party with the filmmakers. I want to have a drink with you. I want to, talk movies with you. What's your next project? It's almost like a summer camp reunion for the people that come back, and for the people that haven't been before and they show up, they're like, okay, I get it now. Like I get it why everybody's always talking about GenreBlast, because this is cool. And so you just really have to want to care about your filmmakers, know them by name, care about the films, program stuff that you actually want to play, not just your cousin's film that no one's going to want to watch. Program stuff that you have to think about what you like, but also think about, are people going to enjoy this film? Are people going to sit through this film? And so sometimes you might not think personally that it's the best film in the world, but that your audience is going to enjoy the heck out of it. And that's what counts. So it's programming a great group of films and caring about the filmmakers and making it visible. So
Yeah, I love the idea of the summer camp vibe coming back every year. Just even just down to cultivating the right atmosphere that people can tell from every aspect that it's the real deal, that the organizers are in it for the right. And you said that there are like some scammy ones out there that do take those submission fees and they go into the pocket rather than back into the process. And it seems like people can probably suss that out pretty quickly, and you're gonna if you avoid being that scammy person, you're going to find that You're going to cultivate that right atmosphere. Nathan, I want to ask you about adapting Worst Laid Plans. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that.
So, Worst Laid Plans, for those who don't know, is an anthology book from Grindhouse Press, which is like one of my favorite presses. Those folks are amazing. Um, Samantha Koyesnik, who put out True Crime and eventually Waif through Grindhouse Press, she approached CV Hunt and Anderson Prunty and asked them, can I curate this anthology of vacation horror? Gave her the go ahead. She started curating all these amazing short stories. Final product is so good. It's one of the best anthologies I've ever read. There's so many weird, eclectic stories in that book. She wanted to make it into a movie. She approached me because I run GenreBlast and I've had experience with making films. She goes, "Hey, do you want to produce this with me as a feature film?" And, I thought about it. I was like, this is going to be a lot of work, like being a producer. But, I always like to take a challenge head on. And it was my first time producing a feature film. So we approached a bunch of directors to adapt some of the stories that we thought were cost effective, that were budget friendly, because there's some stories in there that are not budget friendly, that are really good stories, but we just didn't have the money for it. So we optioned about 5 stories. Only 3 of them made the final cut. We had some issues with the other 2 directors. I don't want to get into that publicly. But the final ones we picked were Deep in the Heart, written by Waylon Jordan, W. Dale Jordan, Taylor Family Vacation 93 by Jeremy Herbert, and You've Been Saved by S.E. Howard. And we picked John Hale, Christopher G. Moore, and Jeremy Herbert himself to adapt his own story, because, shocker. No, I'm just kidding. But we had some really great short film directors who have won awards and played in all kinds of awesome festivals to direct these adaptations. They ended up shooting them in 3 different states, one in Florida, one in North Carolina, one in West Virginia, kind of all going on at the same time during the summer and the fall of 2021, which means 3 different locations, 3 different sets of crews and cast, 3 different insurance policies, 3 different sets of paperwork. And it was, that was probably my most stressful year altogether, while running the festival at the same time as producing a feature film and also trying to get Love Potion 666 finished.
Holy shit.
It was yeah.
On top of,
plus
like
all
you
that
said,
normal stuff that you have to do every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a learning experience for sure. I was on the phone with Samantha a lot going, I don't know about this. Like, what do we do? She's like, we can't quit. And I was like, well, okay, you can't quit either. So we kind of were just like, just psyching each other up through the whole thing. And it was good to have an outlet, like a lifeline to we could talk back to each other instead of like messaging the director and going, I don't feel like doing anything today. So you just do whatever you want to do. It was definitely an experience. It was a lot of work, but I would do it again. I don't know if I would necessarily do it as an anthology. I would like to be a producer for one director this time. I think that would be a great experience. So there's a couple things. We're always looking to adapt. This is such an untapped market for the indie genre press market. There's so many good, you guys know, there's so many good novellas. There's so many good short stories that can be adapted into film and done for a good budget too. Our Indiegogo campaign, we raised about $50,000, and a lot of it was goodwill from the writing community, but also goodwill from the GenreBlast and the film festival community, where everybody saw what we were doing. They're like, hey, these are all good people. Let's go ahead and donate. So that was a huge advantage for us. Absolutely. Overall, very exciting experience. We're in film festivals now. I've been to about 2 film festivals for the film and did like Q&As for them and stuff. So very exciting. It's going to be at Scares That Care, AuthorCon. Nice. There'll be a screening of it there. I'll have Blu-rays for sale if anybody wants one. So yeah, very cool.
That's awesome, man.
That's great.
Eric LaRocca's Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke would definitely be. I can't see that being like a budget issue, because most of that's just conversation.
Oh, I'm sure his stuff is going to get adapted into a film or a TV show pretty soon. I have no doubt about
that. Probably going to be super fucked up, and I can't wait.
Yeah.
Gretchen Felker Martin's Manhunt, if that's ever adapted, that's probably going to get an X rated.
Yeah, I've got that on my shelf. I have yet to read it, but I'm looking forward to checking it out. I got so many books, as you can see, that I need to dig into soon.
I just remember, I don't review many books now. I just, it's a time thing, and I don't think I'm very good at it, to be honest. But I just remember when I wrote that a review for that. I was basically saying it's a fever dream meets 28 Days Later. It's just
Yeah,
bonkers.
that's what I've heard. Yeah, that's awesome.
So, Brennan, I don't want to cut you off. I have a question.
No, go right
Um,
ahead.
with film, with writing prose, I know that they have a lot of similar pieces of advice that seasoned veterans give to newer people in that field. And I want to hear your opinion because you kind of touched on it on the afterword for Love Potion, but that is don't start off with a novel. Don't start off with George R. R. Martin said something similar. He goes, I got people at conventions coming up to me telling me that they start writing like epic fantasy series, and that's the first thing that they write. He said you got to start with
You got to
short
work up to
stories.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So, do you have anything that you want to touch on? Because you never know who's listening, when they will listen to this, and if they're super duper new or kind of just maybe needing some advice.
Sure. I mean, as far as I've only put out two books, so I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I'm still learning so much about prose fiction writing every day. I'm just trying to be like a sponge as much as possible.
But say
So,
for the film, think about there might be filmmakers listening too.
oh, filmmakers, absolutely. I mean, as far as advice is concerned, the world is your easel, is your tableau. Do whatever you want. Not everybody's going to love what you do, and that's okay. You don't want everyone to love what you do because you're not challenging anything. You got to have haters. If you've got haters, it means you're doing something right. So write that nasty little book that your parents aren't going to like, or make that movie that people are going to be like, I don't know about that person. Are they right in the head? Go out and do it, and then worry about who's going to buy it, who's going to sell it after the fact. If you make a piece of art that people will connect with, that stuff all comes afterwards. People are going to clamor. Look at A24. That's that production company.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
make
yeah.
they make very unconventional films
They're
that
so
that
good.
are outside of the norm most of the time. Like 30 years ago, those movies would be the fringe films that are made for like $5, but now they're getting the prestige treatment. So your story, people want to read about your story. I mean, look, I just getting into books, like there are so many reviewers out there that are voracious readers that love horror and they love the crazy messed up stuff. And I didn't think that was like a thing. And then people are like, oh my God, dude, the clone sex story in Comfy-Cozy Nihilist was so funny. I loved it. I didn't think anyone was going to like that story. I wrote that because that was just in my mind at the time, just about this just weird stuff. Like I love multiplicity. And I just was like, what if multiplicity was like way hornier? And let's just go there and just go for it. And everybody read that story feedback and they're like, Nathan, this is so weird. Like what is this?
We were
So
all thinking it. We didn't want to admit it, but we were all thinking it.
I was like, don't take anything out of the story other than what's in it. It's just a silly story that I wanted to write, but I put that at the end because it was so out there. So like, and I was afraid to put that out because I'm still new to writing and I know that there's way crazier stuff out there. I'm not blind to that. But for me, that was a big step for me to put that in the book because I was like, what if people think I'm weird? And I'm like, but you want people to think you're weird because that's what a lot of people like with writers. So put that weird, crazy story in your anthology. Make that short film that people, I mean, Ari Aster, who directed Hereditary and what's the other one?
Dude, he made one of the weird
Midsummer.
most.
That short film that he made, The Strange Thing About the Johnsons.
You beat me to it. That is the
What in the
most
world?
fucked up short I've ever seen, man. It still haunts me.
I
I
saw
saw it
that
in 2015.
at a film festival and I had
Oh,
no idea what I was about to see. I think it was the Nashville Film Festival or something like that. I had no idea what I was about. This is like when it first came out. And I watched that movie and the first time I watched it I laughed through the whole thing because I didn't know the tone. I wasn't aware of the tone. And you go back and watch it again. That is a dark dark film. And a lot of people do not like that movie if you go on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want to ever watch it again, man.
I like the movie, but it's not something I would like rush to see again. But that kind of weird, dark, insidious tone, I do like. I appreciate that in filmmaking sometimes. So,
So, just for people that may be intrigued, I have a way of saying the plot, but I think you're gonna be more eloquent with it. So, would you mind? would you would you mind describing that? Because
and when I say
whenever
I laugh through it, people are going to be like, "It's not a funny. That's not funny."
You
And
probably just didn't know how to react, man.
it's I have a very and this is not unique, but I have a very, very, very dark sense of humor. So sometimes I will laugh at things that are. I mean, I laughed in and if you've ever seen a Serbian film, I
I
laughed in that
don't
movie
I don't want to watch that. I know
because
what
it's
it's about.
so absurd. There's a couple of scenes in that movie that are so out there that the only reaction I can have is to laugh because it's so ridiculous that it's just something that if you're not tuned into that kind of sense of humor, you're just going to go, well, that was gross. Why did you think that was funny? But I think that that movie is a very, 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 very dark comedy, but it's also a very sobering short film about generational abuse within families and how that's dealt with. But I think if you're to get a couple laughs out of that movie because it's so dark and it's so messed up that you kind of have to laugh at it if you're a certain type of person, I think that's okay. I think that's a way sometimes people cope with things that are so messed up.
Isn't this okay? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the son's abusing the father, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
making sure that I remember that correctly.
I mean, if you go back and
Yeah.
watch that movie, the way it's done, there is an air of dark comedy to that. The way that it's shot and the way that it's helmed, you're supposed to kind of a little bit go, what is going on here? But then as the movie goes on, it's not as funny anymore, and it's really messed up. And it's one of the few short films that I think about constantly, like all the time, like how messed up that thing is, and how I don't want to say like the chutzpah on him for making a short film like that and just going, that's kind of goes back to my clone story. I'm like, is anyone going to like this? Like, is anyone going to even care about this weird story about a clone orgy? Um, but I was like, you know what? And that's how I felt for a lot of the stories. Like, are people going to think I'm like weird or like too just this or that? And I just have to remember, like, I see all these conversations online. The narrator is not the author, not necessarily. Don't confuse the two. It's not the same thing. And I'm going, okay, well, I guess most people are adults and they can figure that out. So I'm just going to put this book out and see what happens. So that was kind of my mindset as well.
I'm
But I don't even know where we got off on a tangent. I think it was advice for filmmakers and writers.
well,
Just do what you want and worry about the details afterwards. Make your art. Don't let other people tell you what to make, what's trendy, chasing trends. Even if you're a screenwriter, don't chase trends. Just use your own voice. That's the
mm,
most important thing, is make sure that the stuff you make can't be mistaken for anyone else but you.
yeah, it's great. I was just gonna add that's like one of the few movies that still gives me a physical reaction. Like my stomach feels empty. I thought it was done phenomenally. He does have a lot of balls for doing that type of movie. But I just remember that we went to my one friend's house that we all worked together. It's right down the road from where we worked. And after we finished watching this, we turned to this guy named Jeff and we said, "What the fuck did we just watch, man?"
There's a lot of people online saying about that movie. You're not the only one.
Yeah. He's I'd shake his hand for saying good job. Few movies have ever done that to me, and there's other movies of yours I'd rather watch again.
I think Hereditary is probably my favorite. That movie
Yeah,
is just captures like this angsty kind of fear that I have sometimes. It's really well done.
it's definitely a cult classic. Brennan,
Absolutely.
Brennan, you got anything you want to touch on with Nathan? Do you? I didn't even ask. Do you want to be called Nate or Nathan?
Either one is fine with me. Nathan
We're like
is,
an hour in,
yeah.
dude.
I know.
Nathan's fine, but if you want to do Nate, that's fine too.
Okay. Brennan, you got any film questions?
I do not. I haven't even seen any of the. Well, I saw Midsummer and I didn't care for it, so I didn't see the other ones.
Is it
So
Midsommar?
it's definitely spelled that way.
Hereditary is my favorite. I will go to bat for that one for sure.
Is The Witch? Is that A24?
Yes, A24. Yep,
Okay, yeah, that's a phenomenal movie.
it is. I love that film.
I like how we use the term slow burn when we're talking. Brennan and I usually don't use that for a derogatory term, but there are quite a few people that do. And I think that's reflective on today's society because everything's instant access. I'm curious if you can kind of correspond um, with that as far as like what the audience wants, what they expect. Because nowadays, when we were all growing up, it was like VHS and going to Blockbuster, which I miss, and Circuit City, which is where I found personally in my area the best like selection of horror DVDs specifically. Um, I'm wondering if you see any correlation between what the audience wants as far as pacing or maybe even content in movies compared to from now compared to like when we were growing up.
Wow. Do you want me to just give you the pessimistic answer? Because I don't know if you're going to want to hear it. I don't have any hope for. God, this is going to be such a loaded answer. I don't have a ton of hope for the future of cinema as it is now, and as we grow up with it. I think it's good. It's changing. I think movie theaters are dying. I think that physical media, it's making a bit of a comeback because streaming has had such an over stranglehold on things that I think it's being dialed back a little bit, and that physical media is going to make a bit of a comeback, but it's still dying. I think all the stuff that we grew up with is on its way out because the younger generation, and I'm not saying that as in a derogatory way, they just don't have a space for it. They're just not interested in it. It doesn't occur to them. And there's always going to be cinephiles in the younger generation that are going to want physical media, but they're the minority. Most people are interested in, and again, this is neither good nor bad. This is the way progress is. TikTok videos, YouTube videos, and short, tiny little things in bites. That's what they want for the most part. So that doesn't really play. I mean, I was reading something where I think they're going to make movies the vertical screen like a TikTok. They're going to be released theatrically. That's the way movies are headed to.
What the
Now, I'm not
fuck?
surprised because the next generation coming up, they don't have the same love for the same stuff that we had the same love for. Just like we didn't have the same love for a drive-in theater or the automat or jukeboxes or 8-track tape players. Like
Or
it's what
horse
you
and
grow up with
buggies.
is what you tend to fight for.
Right, I got you.
So they don't have a fight and they don't have a dog in that fight. So why would they fight to keep it alive? And I get it, but I just think that right now we're in a weird place for film. It's evolving. It's and books too. I mean, people have been struggling with digital versus physical for a long time. A lot of people don't think we should be printing books anymore at all. I mean, there's definitely a debate going there too. So I'm a physical media whore. Books, movies. I still have stuff on VHS. That's just the way I am, and I know that's not. A lot of people are decluttering and downsizing. Even people our age and older, they're just getting rid of all the stuff. So now one man's trash is another man's treasure. People are picking up on all this stuff and building up their libraries, but I think it's all temporary. I think we're in transition here. Where we're headed to, I have no idea. It's uncharted territory as far as entertainment is concerned, books and movies and television. And is streaming the answer? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that it's the answer that everybody thought it was a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
especially during the pandemic, which was very convenient. But things are changing all the time, and I can't give you a straight answer as to what's going to happen because I'm a little scared of where it's headed to. I'm just going to be that old man in the corner with my hoard of books and Blu-rays going, "Don't touch my stuff," because that's how I feel. But I'm also open to whatever the younger generation wants to do too. I mean, who are we to say that they're wrong? So
I'm wondering if it's ever going to be cyclical, like if anything that we grew up on is ever going to make a comeback.
well, we're kind of in a 90s renaissance right now. It's the
Yeah.
80s are out. That's tired. What the 90s are wired right now. That's what
Hmm.
people are. I'm seeing people wearing 90s fashion and 90s hairdos, like the Jennifer Aniston hairdo is back, and,
Oh God.
and mom jeans are in and stuff like that. So that's where we're at right now, the 90s. My mind is going to be blown when we're in the 2000s retro thing. That's just going to be too close to home for me.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
as an adult. So
I'm
yeah.
still mentally there, so
Brennan, you want to do currently reading?
sure. Oh, do I
Brennan,
want to go first?
yeah. Do you?
I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, sure. Why not? Um, I am currently reading Rovers by Richard, I think it's Lang. Um, it is a vampire book. I'm pretty early on in it, and it's doing a lot of jumping right now, but it has that feeling like, okay, eventually this like ADHD mindset is going to snap into something cohesive, and when it does, it's going to be special. At least I hope that's the direction it's going. That's what I anticipate. And I am also reading No One Rides for Free by Judith Sonnet, which is an extreme horror book that earns that moniker pretty quickly there. Judith does not mess around.
I have heard that. I am looking forward to reading something from her soon.
Same.
Yeah. Nathan, how about you?
Well, I always got a couple things on the go, but right now I'm focusing on a couple Grindhouse Press books. I've got Saint Sadist by Lucas Mangum. I'm reading that right now. Very good, very lyrical. Was not expecting that. I liked the very artful approach to the prose there. And I'm also reading this big hunky boy, The
Holy
Birth of a
shit.
Monster by A.S. Coomer. And it is about the rise of a serial killer with a god complex. And I'm still pretty early on, but it's a very brutal read if you like kind of extreme serial killer fiction.
Sounds pretty cool.
I
So
liked seeing that one because I always think of Grindhouse as these like slim little like 200-page novels or novellas, and then like all of a sudden they put out this like that thing's got to be 500 pages.
It is. It's over 500 pages.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
kind of
always
a cool
I just like
departure.
I like holding a good thick book. It just feels
Yeah.
nice, you know. You just feel like you're into something when you're doing that. So, and I read stuff on Kindle all the time. It just depends on my mood, but I love good thick books.
yeah. So I'm reading Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane.
Nice.
And I will be starting this one. I'm pointing to American Cannibal, edited by Rebecca Rowland. And Brennan has talked about it with me, and it sounds like it's going to be a pretty bloody treat.
I read Optic Mirror from Rebecca. She's an excellent writer. So good.
She's very prolific, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are the two that I'm doing. Nathan, where can people follow you?
So you can catch me on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. I'm on all those things as myself as a writer. I'm at Lugenhausen. Sounds weird, but it's easily spelled. It's LOOGENHAUSEN. Lugenhausen. You can find me on there, and you can find GenreBlast on social media too, at GenreBlast. That's GenreBlast, one word.
Why'd you pick that name?
Because our festival is a mix of all genres, so it's a blast of genres, and it sounds cool too. So,
yeah, yeah, it's snappy. Brendan, where can people follow you, sir?
BrennanLaFaro.com has links to all the stuff that you might need.
You follow me at PR McDonough on Twitter. You can follow the show on pretty much any social media. Just look up Dead Headspace. Nathan, do you have any final thoughts?
I just want to say thanks for letting me be on the show. I had a fun talking to both of you gentlemen. I think it's the first time we've ever spoken on video chat, right? Is that true, Patrick? Is the first time? Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice surprising, actually.
Yeah, faces and voices together. I love it. I appreciate it. And I'm also going to be at AuthorCon signing books for Love Potion and Comfy-Cozy Nihilist. I'll be there all weekend, and Worst Laid Plans representing that too as well. So I'll be looking forward to seeing some people there.
That's awesome. I wish I could go to that. I just baby on the way and saving up.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Number 2, huh?
Yeah, second son. And gotta be going to Disney World in a couple months, so I don't have money to do really anything.
No. Not if you're going to Disney World.
No, the Philip's very excited for that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I can't wait. Brennan, final thoughts.
Nathan, thanks for coming to hang out with us. Like, congratulations on all the success that GenreBlast has had, and on the release of that collection. I loved it, man, and I hope people will pick that up.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. Thanks for reading.
Also, Patrick, I'm so proud of you for saying Dennis Lehane's name right.
It only took 90 tries, but I got it.
Yeah.
Second to what Brennan said, I really appreciate you coming on, man. And that book, is there any plans for when it might come out, or is this just kind of you're in the middle of writing it right now? The book that you said this is the first time I'm not basing it off of the
Yes.
screenplay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get that finished by the end of April. So,
Nice.
and I see that there's a couple presses that are looking for stuff, so we'll see what happens.
Oh man.
But I'm very excited about it. It's going to be, I don't know, the short story collection was an extension of Love Potion because I had all this nasty stuff I kind of wanted to get out and have fun with. This is definitely it's definitely weird, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely a more traditional horror story. You know, a little bit of cosmic horror, a little bit of showbiz satire. So we'll see how that does.
I want to read that. But yeah, we'd love to have you back, man. So thank you for coming on, and listeners, watchers, viewers, whatever. Next episode is 194, American Cannibal, featuring Candice Nola, CV Hunt, Ronald Malfi, and Evie Knight. So that'll be real interesting. I have no clue where that conversation is going to go. But as always, you have many choices in podcasts. Thank you for picking us.